Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. Tommy Marquez here on the road, flip flopped with the usually on the road Lauren Khalil, who is here. Lauren, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm actually at home, and now you're doing some fun little family visitations with Miles.
Yeah, Miles getting to meet his great grandma, great aunt. Some really cool family time that we get to knock out. But Sean is also on the road. He is at the Arnold Strongman Classic that is going to be taking place this weekend and week as the Arnold Sports Festival is going on. It's a big fitness festival. Rogue Fitness will be your place to get all of the information as well as catch all of the live action of the Arnold Strongman and Strong Woman Classic that's going on. It's one of the premier strongman and strong women events on the calendar. So you can hear Sean's big, beautiful, booming voice as people perform feats of strength
Mm.
all week long. So he will not be with us this week, but we still got a ton to talk about. The Open's here. We have statements from the CrossFit Athlete Council. We have more athletes kind of revealing what their season plans will or will not be. We'll also hear from uh, Ben Bergeron, the owner of former CrossFit affiliate CrossFit New England, now Comp Train New England. In just a little bit, we have an interview coming with him. But before we get to all of that, we want to say thanks to our sponsor for today, and that is Thirdzy. Their Rest and Recover Collagen. It is fantastic. We can't say enough good things about it. Usually, you get to hear Sean wax poetic about this, but honestly, for me as a new parent, Thirdzy has been a game changer because obviously the sleep is a little bit more sporadic. But when I do get some dedicated sleep, one scoop gets me some collagen, L-theanine, GABA, no melatonin, non-habit forming, no grogginess in the morning, and it gives me some really good, strong, deep sleep, getting into those deeper sleep cycles to help me recover for the day. Because let's be honest, Lauren isn't quite there yet, but Sean and I are. We are masters athletes. I'm still a level one master. Sean's like a and
Oh,
he's a
man.
level 4 master now.
Yeah.
And as many of you masters athletes know, getting the recovery element is even more important as you age. You can't just walk into a gym, sneeze, and hit a PR like you are when you're a young sprout in your early 20s. You need to have good sleep habits. You need to have good nutrition. You need to take care of your body. And Thirdzy is absolutely the way that you can help nail down your sleep. If you want to get a discount on Thirdzy, you can head to thirdzy.com/TEF. You automatically get 20% off your order there. I can't we can't say enough good things. They've been a longtime supporter. We love this stuff. It's a nightly habit for me. It's a way that I make sure I get good sleep and have maintained a semblance of fitness in terms of my recovery in this process for sure.
And me too. Even though I spend a lot of my time on the road, that is one thing that can be a staple in my routine because they have those great travel packs that even if I'm getting not a lot of sleep when I'm on the road between waking up early, staying up late editing, I know that Thirdzy is something that I can rely on for great recovery. And as soon as I start taking it, sometimes I've taken it while we're recording if it's a little too late at night, that thing hits you and you start getting those wobbly eyes and hopefully your bed is close by or a seat on an airplane because you're out.
Totally. And again, thirdzy.com/TEF. The discount will automatically be applied. You can scan the QR code there on your screen. Thanks as always to Thirdzy for supporting our show. All right. Tons to talk about. Let's talk first the open numbers. So a quick little update. As we do each week, our good friend Mike Halpin from Known and Noble has consistently been publishing the numbers and registration. One from both the number of days left before the official start of the Open, or really the Monday after the Open when kind of the official registration numbers kind of close, as well as the days from since registration opened. So two different metrics, but we're really focused on the one with the runway at the end as far as days until the Open registration is closed. And right now, it's looking like we're trending at about 40%. So a decrease in 40% year over year. Now, one thing to note, um, Monday to Monday on the final week before the Open last year in 2024, over 100,000 people signed up. So there really is a huge push. I want to say it was north of 110,000. So really 33% of the people that signed up in the Open last season signed up in that final week. One, that just goes to show you that we will procrastinate no matter what. Two, that really the final judgment on what open registration looks like this season will come, come Monday, because we could see some big pops, especially Thursday, the day of the first open announcement, and the day
Mhm.
after. Those are typically two of the biggest days when people get to see the open announcement. It's a nice little uh, appointment television reminder. Hey, you need to sign up, and then the following day, you're like, oh yeah, I should get on it. Classes are running. We're getting ready to actually do the workouts now. So yeah, we've kind of hung around that 40% for a little bit. It seems like that kind of is the metric, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where that gap will narrow because I do still think that we'll have a spike after the announcement
Mhm.
up until when scores are due on Monday, but how much of that gap can we see close in? Because between seeing what the workout is, I know we'll talk about this later, but knowing that I think week one is the repeat between 2020 and 2024. So that can kind of eh, add to the excitement, especially if you have been around within that 5-year window. And also just showing up to your local affiliate that is more than likely going to program the workout anyways on Friday or showing up for Friday night lights and getting encouraged by other people. So I'm curious to see where we end up at the close of Monday night.
For sure, and we do have. I should mention, we'll talk about it more a little bit later. That we are just one day away from 25.1. We'll have some full details, a little bit more commentary in just a moment. But one thing that did come down the pipe a few days ago, in this past week since we've recorded, the CrossFit Athlete Council, which was a council formed by CrossFit in conjunction with athletes that were voted on kind of by the community, I guess. And they're voted on by the community, but I haven't really dug into what the actual voting turnout was. What was the engagement on that vote? But it is an athlete council. That is supposed to work in conjunction with CrossFit. That is not the PFAA. They released a kind of document or statement um, just a few days ago, and I'm going to share my screen here because I do have the document up, and it is basically a report of sorts on the feedback that they have received since their formation, and they're kind of reporting on a bunch of items, whether it's the new transgender athlete policy, the statement on the demand to fire to fire Dave Castro, and they address the PFA specifically, the statement on third party investigation and Lazar's death and CrossFit's response. Statement on athletes protesting the game season. Statement on the community desiring more forward-facing leadership from HQ. Um, a statement on the community desire to fix inconsistencies in the season, and then on the community cup as well. So they list a mission at the top as well as items to address. It's interesting, and we can kind of dive into this a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but Lauren, I want to highly urge everyone to go and read this first. Go read this full document, and the very first thing at the top, it says to provide transparency to the community. Okay, you got me there.
Mhm.
And offer objective, accurate explanations for decisions made by HQ. That one kind of has me a little scratching my head, because isn't it HQ's responsibility to explain their decisions and not necessarily an independent council acting as, for lack of a better term, a mouthpiece? That one kind of, like, right off the bat, that kind of had me scratching my head as far as, why is it this athlete council's responsibility to provide explanations to CrossFit when they should be fully capable of themselves? Isn't that what CrossFit has? A communications team, a PR team. Shouldn't they be able to provide explanations for their decisions themselves?
Yeah, that's the part that is confusing to me and doesn't make a lot of sense, especially as you start going through some of these points here, specifically when they talk about the investigation and they talk about that they're going to remain transparent, but then almost in the same breath they say that they're not going to release any more information because of anonymity. So it's just a little bit confusing, when you read it like that, and again, I'll just kinda go back to why couldn't they just have found a way to work with the PFAA, or why couldn't they have somehow combined the PFAA with this, and just creating now 2 different athlete boards seems confusing, and just it doesn't make a lot of sense and from where I'm sitting.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I don't know, and maybe it's just a wording thing, but even in the announcement of the creation of the athlete council, which again, if it's supposed to be this independent council and CrossFit's having a hand in making it and influencing it and kind of dictating what comes out and having them speak for them, it seems like the independent becomes less and less a reality. If
Mhm.
that's just is
I
kind of
would
like
agree.
where my gut sits. And I mean, you look at what
And
some of
there
the
are
stuff
some
that
great people on the board. I don't wanna
for
take that away from, some of the people who are on there, and that they do truly want the best for the sport, the community, the growth of CrossFit, etcetera, but, um, yeah, then when you see the wording of the mission, I'm just like, "Who's actually in charge, and what is the point of this? And what are we gonna get out of it?" And I think
yeah,
that we've still yet to see.
yeah, for sure, especially because there's already an independent athlete council in the PFAA that has been proactively trying to work and has been working with CrossFit back and forth to varying degrees over the last couple of years. Um, and it does seem like CrossFit hasn't been super interested in working with them, which
Mhm,
is almost kind of a defeats the purpose, right? If CrossFit wanting to say they have an independent athlete council, but there's one already there and they're not really willing to work with them, that seems odd. They touch on a bunch of stuff. I think the most hot button, I think the most publicized item on the list, the one that has been talked about the most, is both the third party investigation, which they state they're not going to share more, that they cannot release the full report for privacy and legal considerations, and then also the demand to fire Dave Castro, which they said they've received similar requests, such as those made by PFAA. Um, and they say first and foremost, the evidence found does not support a request for Dave's removal as director. What evidence is that? See,
right, in
it
that case, they want us to just believe that without saying much. The evidence found. Well, what evidence found,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And now I understand that they are specifically adhering to CrossFit's request to remain
Mhm,
private on some of the matters in the investigation, but also at the same point, the point of this council is to be able to provide transparency and communicate the needs of the community and also advocate. And so clearly they have received some evidence found, but they do not share that evidence. So they're going against what their stated mission is in terms of communicating and being transparent on this stuff to their constituents. That seems very odd to me.
mhm.
The like they do there is some good information in here and some good discussion, but those are like two of the biggest things that think people are wanting. And I think this is also speaks to some of the issues that the PFAA ran into, that they're advocating, but CrossFit doesn't want to play ball. And you can either say, "Oh, okay, that's not good enough," and keep pushing, or you can say, "Okay, CrossFit, that works for us. Here, they didn't want to talk to us. Yay, good job." And it's like, well, what is the true job of an independent athlete council at that point if you're not going to push back against what is clearly a non-satisfactory result or explanation, I think, or if you're going to hold on to evidence that the rest of the community and your constituents that you represent don't have, how are you not going to share that with them? I just, I that it almost is like, all right, we're doing the same thing over again.
Yeah. I mean, I will give credit to CrossFit for at least releasing something. We at least have some points to go through, but saying you're gonna be transparent and then not be transparent, it's a similar sentiment than that what we heard right after the CrossFit Games and when they said that they were gonna be transparent with the investigation. And again, I totally understand that there's a lot of legality that goes into this, and we can't just have the entire document in front of us, and they also have to listen to their lawyers, but, uh,
But
yeah.
it also speaks to the frustrations of people that CrossFit's like, "Hey, we're
Mhm.
gonna be transparent." And then they say, "Oh, actually, our lawyers are advising against this." Well, why even say that in the first place? Why put your foot in your
Right.
mouth, right? To
Just
from the
don't say
get-go.
anything. Just be
Yeah,
like, "Hey, we're gonna do everything that, we're gonna release as much as we can based on our guidance from legal," and just leave it at that.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. Um, it's interesting, like, I want there to be progress, and I want there to be, a willingness from CrossFit to hear what these groups have to say, but I don't want it to be on CrossFit's terms. That's the point. The
Mhm.
point of having an independent group is not that CrossFit gets to lead the dance here. It's that you have someone separate from them that is a strong advocacy group for people that aren't just going to get steamrolled by this because CrossFit has had the rule of the roost for so long, and they've done in many ways over the last 12 to 15 years. They've done a great job with it, but they've hit some road bumps and they've made some grave mistakes and done some things that have eroded the trust. And I don't know if this necessarily is, it may be a start in trying to rebuild that, but I don't know if this really, really satisfies a lot of the major criticisms at this point. I
And I
appreciate
think
they
that's
put
the whole reason. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate they put the document together and they're putting it out there. In the
Absolutely.
very
Mhm.
least, you should be doing that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's I'm interested to see where it goes from here because I don't know if this is going to result in much more than what we've already seen.
Mhm.
So yeah, um, let's move on now because I'm sure we'll definitely have more time to talk about that in the future, and I definitely want to chat with that more with Sean as he comes back. But um, some more athletes have kind of come out on social media, stated what their plans for the season are. Specifically, um, Emma Tall, who we had, there's kind of been word out and about, basically that she was not going to compete in the season, but she did make it official, stating on her Instagram that she would be sitting out of the season and also explaining why. Um, I don't have it pulled up right now, but if you do want to read it, because it isn't a lengthy discourse, and I would highly suggest you go check it out at Emma Tall's Instagram. She has a multi-slide explanation of that, and she is obviously was very, as an athlete from Europe and as someone who had trained um, in some capacity with Lazar and knew him well, him and her and David both Sharonki. Yeah, it doesn't come as a surprise that she's sitting out, but she's not the only one, and that's not the only reason for sitting out. Emma Lawson is sitting out, citing a back injury. Um, I know there had been discussions about her potentially even maybe sitting out portions of the calendar year last year,
Mhm.
um, but this year she's choosing to focus on the WFP commitments, which and not do the open, which gives her a little bit more time to kind of take care of this nagging back injury. In addition to that, Jack Farlow is also following a similar suit, pursuing WFP opportunities and shifting focus to school because he is in school. And if I remember correctly, he's like a chemical engineer or something crazy like that.
Biomedical engineer, I think is the
Yeah.
ex I mean, he's freaking smart, and
Yeah.
the other guys that were on his team at Wadapalooza, that was like the big brain team. That's what I wanted to call them.
Check out the big brains on Brad. Yeah. So he's come out and said something similar, and we've also seen Emma and Jack do high rocks and some other fitness pursuits as well. And it seems like they're just kind of shifting focus at least for this year. On the flip side of that, we have had some athletes basically, announce that they will be competing in the season. Danielle Brandon released a hype video on her Instagram. You can go check that out as well, where she states that she's in. We've also heard some statements from some of the more OG CrossFitters as well, whether it's Becca Voigt and CrossFit Training Yard down in LA, saying that they'll be doing the Open. I believe Josh Bridges mentioned something on his Instagram. So you do have a multitude of voices, both new and old, um, kind of stating what their plans are for the season and where their support lies in terms of how they're going to try and hopefully, I assume, affect change, unless some of them don't want change and they're okay with the status quo. But either way, that has been pouring out, and I apologize if you can hear uh,
Miles.
Miles just having a ball in the background. Um,
He loves the
just
family trip.
he does. He's a big tummy time fan for sure. Um,
Aw.
but really one of the, I guess, the biggest thing on the horizon right now, and I think this will take the rest of our discussion leading into our interview, is that the Open is here. The 2025 CrossFit Games Open is here. We're recording this on Wednesday, so by the time this hits on Thursday, it will be the date of the first Open announcement in Cookeville, Tennessee, at CrossFit Mayhem. Um, you're going to have some Mayhem athletes throwing down, as well as I mean, do we confirm that it's pretty much Rich that's doing it?
Uh, Unofficially official? Maybe?
Maybe.
He said if
Yeah,
his knees and hips can keep up with it.
yeah, for sure. Um, we'll have the
Maybe
full.
Rowan Boss will throw down. What do you think about that?
I would love it. I mean, again, I say if you're gonna go, you go back to the well with CrossFit Mayhem. Let's play all the hits, right? You got Haley
Yeah,
Adams, you got Austin Hatfield, you have Roman Krennikov throwing down. Let's get Rich out there. Let's get Roe. Let's get Boz.
get
Um,
everyone.
yeah, let's.
We got a good crew out there.
Yeah, and especially if you're gonna have all those athletes, it does put a priority. One of the biggest secrets, or the biggest, I guess, let's say surprises. How do I put this? It's pretty much like the Christmas morning, right? This is CrossFit Christmas morning or
Mm.
Christmas Eve, where everybody's waiting to see what Santa brought, right? And we've talked about this on the show, and I think a few other people, Chase and Bill, talked about this too. But this first open workout really sets a tone or a precedent, if you will, on the season. I think you have, you know, whether it's a quality matchup between the athletes, a cool location, whether the announcement is done well, what the programming is, and does it encourage participation, or does it just step up and smack people in the face like 7 minutes of burpees? I think a lot rests on this first open test, and um, I'm I'm really curious to see what is going to come down the pipe, given that for better or for worse, there's I think a much larger magnifying glass on things this year, given what happened. And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on what we might see out of the hopper this first week?
Mm. I can't remember. Is this the week that we're going to see a repeat? Did they specifically say what week would be the repeat? Did Dave say
It,
that? I
I
know
don't
Dave
think.
said it's between 2020 and 2024, but I don't remember if he said it was week 1. He did put the teaser out of the frogs croaking in the background with fire, like a
Yeah,
campfire on the
yeah.
screen. I mean, yeah.
That okay, so I'll say that basically puts me in either, was it 21.3 to 21.4, which is the 2 for 1, which it was like thrusters, toes to bar thrusters, pull-ups, all that stuff. But that seems if that would be coming later on down the pipe, I don't think they would do that in week 1. There's also the deadlift burpee ladder that
Oh, the 1 to 10 and 10 to
mhm,
1? No, I
I
freaking
can see
hated that
I can
one.
see that one coming down the pipe. That would be a little bit more approachable. If we were going to get a repeat and it was going to show up in day one. But but yeah, that's
What year was the one that had was it wall walks, dumbbell snatch, and box jump overs?
I was
And it was
I
an
think
AMRAP?
I think it was 22. Let me
Okay.
find that. I want to say 2022. Ah, dang it. Let me, let me
I wouldn't mind retesting that one. When I tried to retest that one, like, the Monday before scores were due, I did, eat it on the box, and then I looked at my split
we
times, and I was like, "Nope. We're done. We're just gonna go with the first
hit
score now."
yeah, hitting the eject button on this one. Yeah, it was 22.1. So my
Okay.
memory does still serve me even with less sleep these days.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so that would be a good one too. Very approachable. I think in um I kind of well, I do like the idea of some of a more modern repeat. I do think there's a huge cross section of the community that doesn't that hasn't had the opportunity to experience some of these open workouts um, in the avenue of competition as they were originally intended. So I do think there's an opportunity to go further back in the timeline and give some people their first dose of some of these events that gave people, some iconic moments during open announcements and these highlight reels that you saw from the open from the heyday of CrossFit for sure. But but yeah, I don't know. Is there anything you wouldn't want to see on this first week?
The deadlifts and the burpees.
See, that's actually
I
one I'm like, I think I could do that.
oh, that's because you love deadlifts. I mean,
Yeah,
I could
and
do it, but ugh. It's one of those too that if you're not very mindful of pacing, you can get to like this. I remember getting into the sevens and thinking, "Uh-oh, I went way too fast. This was a mistake." Mistakes were made. And then
oh
by the
my
time I
gosh,
got to 10 and going back down, I think my spine was about to come out of my butt.
that makes sense. You know, that'll happen to you,
Yeah, yeah.
as it does when you do a ton of deadlifts. Um, but yeah, so again, Thursday, February 27th, by the time this posts, it will be that day. So 12 p.m. Pacific is when 25.1 is announced, and the elite athlete will throw down. You can get that over at the CrossFit Games website and or the YouTube channel. So yeah, go check that out. I think a lot of people, whether you're doing the open, whether you're signing up officially or doing it unofficially at your affiliate, a lot of people will be waiting on bated breath to see what this first test is. So we'll have
Mhm.
we'll have to wait and see, and we'll get to know sooner rather than later.